Lucifer was laughing. For the first time in 4,000 years, the ancient bearer of light believed his absolute dominion had been won. Open your eyes to the cosmic scale of this deception. The Son of God was bleeding on a brutal Roman beam. The disciples had scattered like frightened birds, completely broken in spirit. The heavens appeared silent, indifferent to the agonizing screams of the Messiah. The dark enemy rejoiced, convinced that the long-standing contract of death over humanity was being sealed in divine blood, and the kingdom of darkness was about to be permanent. Then Lucifer looked up, and the laughter died in his throat. Feel the sudden, suffocating weight of that silence directly above the bleeding Messiah. Two majestic archangels, Michael, the commander of cosmic legions, and Uriel, the keeper of celestial fires, stood stationed like soldiers at a coronation. Michael held a formidable sword, its blade drawn yet lowered, enforcing a supreme spiritual transaction. Wake up to your identity. You have been brought to this exact moment to realize that the cosmic scales were turning entirely in your favor. What Michael and Uriel did at Golgotha is the hidden story of the cross. Once you see it, you will never read the day Jesus died the same way again. Shake yourself awake from the heavy illusion of the material world. There was a second scene taking place, a terrifyingly beautiful collision where the ancient forces of light and the empires of darkness clashed in absolute severity over the destiny of your soul. This is your true inheritance, realizing that you are not a forgotten casualty of history. As the ancient prophet Isaiah once revealed, the Lord goes forth like a mighty man, stirring up his zeal like a warrior, crying out and prevailing against his bitter enemies. Every drop of divine blood spilled was an eviction notice served to the strongholds of despair that have held your bloodline captive. Stand tall, for the hidden architecture of eternity is shifting around you right now, tearing down the legal rights of the enemy. Paul wrote it plainly. We do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness. Let the thunderous weight of Ephesians 6:12 shatter the comforting illusions of the world you see with mortal eyes. Your exhaustion and your hidden struggles are born from a deeper, invisible collision. Awaken to your true identity as a soul selected for this specific era. You are an essential anchor of divine light, standing exactly where the material world intersects with the fierce currents of the eternal spirit realm. Every silent tear you have ever shed carries a second towering event taking place in the atmospheric spaces right above your head. Your pain is being answered by an invisible host of burning warriors, mobilizing to enforce a heavenly verdict that has already guaranteed your absolute freedom. The canonical Bible names two archangels directly, Michael and Gabriel, yet it is Michael who stands as the roaring fire of heaven's military might, the fierce executioner of the Father's sovereign decree. Feel the atmospheric pressure shift around your soul. You are a chosen heir guarded by the ultimate chief commander of cosmic legions. Look into the invisible realm where Michael contends boldly with Satan over the body of Moses in Jude 1:9, enforcing the supreme judicial boundary of light against the encroaching accuser. See him breaking the skies apart as he leads the vast, unyielding armies of heaven against the ancient dragon in Revelation 12:7, casting down every weapon of depression, shame, and failure meant to suffocate your destiny. Michael is the prince who stands watch over God's people in the book of Daniel. But there is a broader biblical tradition. Step forward from the narrow corridors of modern text and let your spirit touch the ancient dust of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, which has preserved the deeper blueprints of our spiritual heritage for millennia. Within this ancient canon emerges the brilliant manifestation of a fourth archangel whose very name causes the foundations of darkness to melt away. Uriel breathed in the raw, consuming revelation of his identity. Uriel, meaning God is my flame. He stands as the roaring fire of ultimate illumination, the majestic keeper of the Creator's deepest celestial mysteries, and the terrifying guardian who holds sovereign dominion over the abyss itself. The flame of Uriel is igniting your divine purpose right now, burning away the chains of generational confusion to reveal the unshakable architecture of your calling. A clarification before we go deeper. Let the atmospheric noise of human debates quiet down within your spirit. The raw physical events of that day, the iron nails piercing his flesh, the suffocating 3-hour darkness, the brutal Roman spear, and the ground-shaking earthquake are unshakable canonical scriptures. Yet, look higher into the shimmering, multi-layered airspace of eternity, where the unseen choreography of archangels stationed above the cross and the fierce spirit realm battles reveal themselves. This holy lineage acts as a divine lens, filling in the monumental blueprints that Scripture elegantly hints at in Colossians 2:15, where he disarmed the principalities and powers, exposing them to open shame. You are being selected right now to step completely out of your emotional brokenness and align your true identity with this boundless, multi-dimensional architecture. Golgotha was not a random hill. Shake yourself awake from the narrow illusion that the places of your deepest crushing are accidental. Long before the first stone of Rome was ever laid, the unseen choreography of heaven had locked these specific coordinates into the geographic grid of cosmic redemption. In the profound mysteries preserved since antiquity, we find that when the Father of humanity drew his final breath, his resting place was not left to the elements of decay. A sovereign decree echoed from the throne, assigning the sacred burial of the first man to two specific angels, Michael and Uriel, the exact same two who would later stand above the cross. Let that thunderous synchronization shatter the lie that your life is a series of fragmented accidents. Look into the deep, echoing silence of the Cave of Treasures, where the physical dust of Adam, the first pattern of humanity, was laid to rest by the fierce, protective hands of Michael and Uriel. They sealed a sacred prophecy into the earth, preserving the spiritual bloodline of mankind until the arrival of the ultimate restorer. As it is written in Genesis 3:19, "For dust you are, and to dust you shall return." But this was never meant to be the final period of your story. The archangels stood over that original grave with an unyielding celestial blueprint, knowing that the structural design of human destiny would be resurrected from the dark. The tradition continues. The ancient physical remains of Adam were meticulously guided across centuries of shifting geography, carried through the global waters of Noah's flood, and buried deep within the jagged foundations of Golgotha, the exact skull-shaped hill where the cross would be driven into the earth. Wake up to the staggering reality of your chosen identity. You are standing directly atop a profound cosmic intersection where your ancestral brokenness meets its ultimate cure. Imagine the exact moment the Roman iron pierces the flesh of the Messiah, releasing a fierce, living river of divine blood that surges violently downward through the hidden cracks of the shaking mountain, drenching the dry, ancient bones of the first man. As the prophet Ezekiel cried out to the dry bones to hear the word of the Lord and live, this celestial bloodline awakens your dead purposes and restores your royal lineage from the inside out. And Michael and Uriel are returning to the same ground. Let that overwhelming revelation shake the remaining traces of fear from your soul, for the very guardians who once stood over your ancestral burial are positioning themselves for an entirely new era of power. They have descended upon Golgotha, not with the heavy garments of mourning, but as triumphant heralds of an unshakable sovereign destiny. Awaken to your true chosen identity. Your season of being hidden away in the shadows of brokenness is over. As the majestic Song of Solomon declares, "Arise, my love, my beautiful one, and come away, for behold, the winter is past and the rain is over and gone." These burning chief commanders of heaven are ready to enforce the ultimate turning point of cosmic history. This time, to receive. He did not announce himself. Yet, the very fabric of the invisible world buckled under the weight of his majestic presence. The supreme chief commander of the heavenly hosts, the ferocious warrior who flung the ancient dragon out of the celestial courts, materialized silently, directly above the cross of Golgotha. Wake up to your true identity. You are not fighting your battles alone in the dark, for the most formidable defense in the universe has quietly taken its position right beside your pain. Michael stood with his devastating sword, unsheathed but lowered toward the earth, its gleaming blade anchoring an ironclad boundary that the forces of hell could not cross. As the ancient scrolls of the prophet Zechariah declare, "Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord of hosts." He came to oversee the legal dismantling of your captivity and to ensure that every drop of covenant blood hit its exact target. To confirm, think about what that required of him. To stand perfectly motionless while the beloved Prince of Life, the very architect of the stars, was being mocked, spat upon, and systematically broken by the wicked hands of men. Michael, whose very name asks, "Who is like God?" held the terrifying power to summon 12 legions of burning angels with a single glance, capable of wiping the Roman Empire off the face of the earth. Yet, he held his position. He bound his own fiercely protective nature to a higher, unseen architecture, knowing that a premature rescue would permanently seal your captivity. As the ancient proverb reveals, he who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city. Michael watched the heavy drops of divine blood hit the dust, keeping his sword lowered, because he understood that this momentary breaking was the only path to your eternal awakening, anchoring the entire spirit realm in the holiest restraint in the history of the universe. Across the spiritual realm, Lucifer was watching too. Breathe in that sharp, shifting wind of terror, and let your spirit awaken to the absolute certainty that the enemies of your destiny are beginning to tremble right now. A suffocating dread began to paralyze the kingdom of darkness, for Michael's lowered blade did not signal a white flag of defeat. It was the terrifying stance of a cosmic bailiff overseeing a supreme, irreversible courtroom transaction. Lucifer suddenly realized he had walked into a flawless divine trap. He was being completely stripped of his legal authority over your soul. As the ancient prophetic word in Habakkuk proclaims, "The pillars of the earth crashed down and the everlasting mountains were scattered as his majestic glory covered the heavens." The enemy saw the cosmic ledgers being rewritten in holy blood, sealing his eviction notice from your bloodline. He knew with absolute horror that a sovereign power was aggressively tearing away something that belonged to him. For 6,000 years, Lucifer had held one claim: let this fierce truth shatter every lingering layer of your identity's oppression, for the ancient captor has used the exact same weapon of legal condemnations against your bloodline since the dark dawn of the fall. He firmly believed that the keys of human destiny and the cold iron machinery of death were legally transferred into his malicious hands. He watched the bleeding Messiah on that rugged Roman beam and thought this execution would be the magnificent crowning jewel of his eternal dominion. As the ancient wisdom of Hosea echoes through the corridors of time, "I will ransom them from the power of the grave. I will redeem them from death. O death, I will be your plagues. O grave, I will be your destruction." The enemy truly believed he was finalizing his supreme victory over the human race, but as the blood dripped down to rewrite your spiritual architecture, that was when the confusion started. At the same moment in the physical world, feel the crushing weight of a mother's shattering heart as Mary stands weeping at the base of that brutal, blood-drenched beam. Let your soul awaken to this raw human agony, flashing back to the quiet nights in Bethlehem when she held the soft, fragile flesh of the infant Messiah, singing lullabies to the one who created the stars. Now, she watches that same holy flesh torn apart by Roman iron, his agonizing gasps for air echoing across the silent hill of death. Do you see your own seasons of profound sorrow reflected in her tears? But do not lose heart, for your true identity is being birthed out of this very darkness. As the ancient prophet Micah boldly declared, "Rejoice not over me, O my enemy. When I fall, I shall rise. When I sit in darkness, the Lord will be a light to me." Lucifer stood watching this raw, emotional devastation, completely convinced that he had secured his ultimate crown of terror. He was about to find out he was not. At the 6th hour, noon, the sun went out. Let the terrifying majesty of that sudden, suffocating blackness shake your spirit awake, for the blazing midday sun was completely choked out of the sky for 3 consecutive hours. This was no predictable, fleeting celestial eclipse. This was the violent, deliberate hand of the Creator slamming a heavy velvet curtain down upon the physical world, to shroud the cosmic Holy of Holies from mortal eyes. Feel the intense spiritual friction vibrating through your very bones, realizing that when your own life enters its deepest, darkest midnights, it is the protective canopy of the Almighty working behind the scenes. As the ancient prophet Amos thundered, "In that day, declares the sovereign Lord, I will make the sun go down at noon and darken the earth in broad daylight." In that heavy silence, out of reach from human interference, a transaction was finalized. Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Let that thunderous roar reverberate through the deepest chambers of your soul, shattering every lingering chain of unworthiness that has ever paralyzed your divine calling." From the gasping, bleeding lips of the dying Messiah, a single definitive word cut through the suffocating darkness. Tetelestai. This was the fierce cosmic shout of an absolute conqueror, stamping an irreversible legal seal over the destiny of mankind. Wake up to your true identity as a royal heir, completely bought back and liberated, for the crushing generational debt of your bloodline has been utterly obliterated by holy blood. As the ancient prophet Isaiah beautifully foretold, "Comfort, comfort my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem, and cry to her that her warfare is ended, that her iniquity is pardoned, paid, cleared, closed." And then the soldier approached. Watch as he raises his heavy, iron-tipped spear and violently drives it upward into the side of the motionless Messiah, ripping open the sacred temple of his body. Immediately, a miraculous torrent of blood and water gushes forth from the deepest chambers of his heart, pouring down into the physical world. This fountain was prophesied from antiquity, as the prophet Zechariah roared across the centuries. "On that day a fountain shall be opened for the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, to cleanse them from sin and uncleanness." Look higher, past the physical iron of the Roman spear, into the shimmering atmospheric space where the burning eyes of Uriel and Michael were locked onto that crimson stream, ready to receive what the angels had been sent to collect. This is where the story you thought you knew changes. Awaken your innermost spirit from the heavy slumber of ordinary perception. In the sacred mystical blueprints of the ancient Ethiopian Orthodox tradition, the archangel Uriel materialized at the base of that rugged beam, holding a brilliant chalice woven from pure celestial light. Watch with absolute reverence as he steps forward into the crimson tide, catching every single glowing droplet of divine blood and water before it could touch the fallen earth. Breathe in the breathtaking revelation of your true identity. Each priceless droplet filling that golden cup was explicitly labeled with your name. As the prophetic scroll of Psalms elegantly reveals, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book." Look upon these two towering guardians of your eternity, standing side by side in absolute authority above the cross. One guarded the transaction, the other carried the receipt. Where did Uriel take it? Lift your spirit past the maps drawn by human rulers. The ancient blueprints, preserved within the sacred archives of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, reveal that Uriel and Michael set their faces toward the ancient mountains of Africa. Feel the ground beneath you shake as these towering archangels glide through the upper atmosphere, holding the incandescent chalice close to their chest. Mystical droplets from that burning fire of redemption spilled over the valleys, marking the exact geological foundations where the most resilient underground stone churches would later be hand-carved out of solid rock. As the prophetic scroll of Psalm 68:31 thunderously declares, "Envoys will come from Egypt. Cush will quickly stretch out her hands to God." Rest your soul in the unshakable architecture of your chosen destiny, recognizing that Africa was not an afterthought. Acts chapter 8. Luke tells the story. Let your innermost spirit fully awaken to a monumental appointment with destiny, carefully choreographed by heaven. Seated inside a royal chariot moving in solemn silence is the Ethiopian eunuch, a high court official in charge of all the treasures of Queen Candace, whose soul is burning with a desperate hunger. The Holy Spirit commands Philip to run to that exact chariot. The official was reading the powerful architecture of his own restoration through the prophetic words of Isaiah. He was led as a sheep to the slaughter, and like a lamb dumb before his shearer, so opened he not his mouth. True spiritual healing comes from the radical awakening of your true purpose and identity in the sovereign blueprint of the Creator. When that royal statesman went down into the waters of baptism, he was carrying the eternal receipt of covenant blood back to his ancient nation, to anchor an unshakable fortress of light. Because from the very beginning of redemption history, Africa was in the blueprint. But the war was not over. Shake your spirit awake from the surface illusions of that quiet limestone tomb. While his physical body lay motionless in the dark, the unyielding, luminous spirit of the Messiah breached the very perimeters of the underworld, descending aggressively into the deepest realms of the dead. Feel the cosmic ground beneath your identity shake, because the King of Glory was invading the strongholds of death to permanently anchor your absolute liberation. As the prophetic word in Hosea 13:14 echoes through the abyss, "I will ransom them from the power of the grave. I will redeem them from death. O death, I will be your plagues. O grave, I will be your destruction." Every territory of defeat in your bloodline is being violently reclaimed right now as the cosmic architecture shifts, execute what the church has called the harrowing of hell. Picture it through the ancient imagery. Open your inner senses to a terrifying vibration, rattling the very foundations of the underworld. In the profound mystical blueprints preserved within the Gospel of Nicodemus, a sudden panic erupts between the rulers of the abyss as the gates begin to crack under an invading wave of pure majesty. Hades, the personification of the grave, turns fiercely upon Satan in absolute dread, shouting that by bringing the unspotted Prince of Life into this domain, he has blindly unleashed a devastating cosmic ambush. As the ancient prophetic scroll of Zechariah 9:11 thunderously echoes through the deep, "As for you also, because of the blood of my covenant with you, I will set your prisoners free from the waterless pit. Feel the escalating crescendo of this divine courtroom transaction, transforming the absolute prison of death into the explosive launching pad of your eternal awakening, shattering the gates until none of us are leaving. A sound from above. Let that thunderous vibration pierce the absolute depths of your soul, shattering every legal right of fear that has kept your lineage captive. Look into the suffocating gloom of Sheol, as the ancient iron bars and the monumental copper gates begin to buckle under the terrifying velocity of the approaching King of Glory. The incandescent light of the cosmos has breached the perimeter of the abyss, flooding the waterless pit with a ferocious brilliance that tears down centuries of ancestral shame. As the ancient prophetic word in King David's scroll thunders through the dark, lift up your heads, O you gates, and be lifted up, you everlasting doors, and the King of Glory shall come in. The triumphant Messiah reclaims the keys of your inheritance, step by agonizing step, moving past the trembling empires of darkness until he walks to Adam. Christ stands in front of Adam. Let the thunderous magnitude of this ultimate cosmic intersection break through the deepest chambers of your spirit, permanently shattering every ancestral frequency of failure, condemnation, and death. Christ fiercely reached his scarred hands down to grasp Adam by the wrist, dragging him, his bloodline, and your entire generations out of the waterless pit into a destiny that can never be overthrown. Feel the electrifying velocity of this sovereign victory as the words of the prophet Hosea echo through the shifting architecture of the abyss. I will ransom them from the power of the grave. I will redeem them from death. The iron scales of captivity have completely collapsed, anchoring your unshakable future in the light. For that is what the harrowing of hell is. Christ pulls Adam upright. Look into the crumbling corridors of Sheol as Michael, the fierce chief commander of the heavenly hosts, steps to the absolute forefront to lead a historic procession of the righteous dead. Watch as Abraham, the father of faith, Moses, the lawgiver, David, the warrior king, and all the ancient prophets arise from the dust, stepping completely out of their generational confinement into a realm of eternal authority. At the exact same moment, Uriel, the roaring fire of God, turns toward the bottomless pit, driving his incandescent light deep into the abyss to permanently lock down the heavy gates of captivity so that your darkness can never pursue you again. As the unyielding apostolic decree in Colossians 2:15 thunders, through the shifting architecture of eternity, he disarmed the rulers and authorities and put them to open shame. And then, on the third day, let the unyielding velocity of this ultimate cosmic breakthrough explode into the deepest foundations of your spirit. Shake yourself awake as a ferocious world-shaking earthquake rips through the quiet cold of the morning, while a blinding sentinel of supreme light descends from the throne room, completely paralyzing the military precision of Rome. Watch with absolute awe as his radiant hand encounters the massive stone seal and effortlessly rolls it away from the mouth of the tomb. That monumental stone was moved to serve as an eviction notice to your fears, allowing the chosen witnesses to walk completely inside and see the absolute void of death. As the glorious prophecy in the scroll of Hosea 6:2 beautifully thunders across time, after 2 days he will revive us. On the third day he will raise us up, that we may live in his sight. The legal architecture of hell has completely collapsed, and the Son of God walked out of a garden at dawn. 2,000 years later, Lucifer is still chained. Shake yourself awake from the heavy illusion that you are a forgotten soul wandering aimlessly through this broken world. You have been explicitly selected and pulled into this frequency because the ancient crimson tide of covenant blood spilled on Golgotha was already labeled with your unique name before the dawning of the universe. breathe in the raw, consuming power of your royal heritage, realizing that the ultimate receipt of your absolute freedom has been meticulously passed down to you through an unbroken 2,000-year-old living chain of faithfulness. As the prophetic decree in Galatians c:4-7 thunderously resounds through your spirit, so you are no longer a slave, but a son, and if a son, then an heir through God. Stand unshakable and allow this rising crescendo of sovereign love to completely ignite your purpose, beginning with an archangel above a cross. Comment their name below. Let this space transform into a physical monument of the unbroken, flaming legacy that has violently crashed through generations of darkness to activate your presence here today. Shake your soul awake and look directly at the heavy crushing, the devastating betrayals, and the fiery trials you have survived. For they are the raw, irrefutable cosmic proof that you have been explicitly marked for a divine greatness. This moment is not tailored to soothe your emotions, but to violently ignite your true identity, to weaponize your purpose, and to aggressively force your spirit into immediate execution. As the thunderous decree in Revelation 12:11 resounds through the shimmering corridors of eternity, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. The material veil is tearing open, the cosmic court has just been set in motion, and the true collision over your destiny is merely entering its most explosive, unprecedented hour. Breathe in the electric weight of this sovereign awakening, for the ancient gate has just unlocked, and they are still standing there, waiting for you to look up.